Hi, I'm Jeroen Verheij, better known as Secret Cinema, and I'm producing techno for probably 26 years already by now. And this is my brand new studio. I just had it finished 3 weeks ago, so I'm getting acquainted to it. And yeah, I'd love you to see what I'm doing right here, and welcome to my studio. I'm gonna explain to you a little bit how I like to work in the studio and how the creative process evolves, and that I like to randomize a lot of stuff and how things fall into place and make me hear things that would never be there unless I would create this chaos. So there is a little bit of chaos, and all this chaos is going to all come together into a nice track, I hope. So I started producing yesterday as an example, like is everything working, because this studio is brand new. I just had it built, the speakers were just in 2 weeks ago, so everything is also new to me. And so is the whole music process. So, you know, there's this modular system here, there's an old DX200, which is basically a techno machine. And the electron rhythm here, I have the Atom speakers just in, which is basically a club setting. The Samsung monitor, which is 4K, which, you know, is a very big monitor, but for some reason it fills the space this much that I completely forget about it. And yeah, there's some old gear, as you can see. So yeah, let's get started. I'll show you what I did yesterday and how it's going to evolve today. So it's all live, and we'll see what happens. So it could be a hit and it could be a miss, so welcome. Okay, here we go. So I found out that the main thing in my studio has become the electron rhythm, and not for it to be a rhythm machine, but basically to be an 8-voice monophonic synthesizer actually. And how I found out about this is because of the Octatrack, which I had before. And in the Octatrack we had a lot of, you know, like these loops that you could make, but also a collection of little parts of sounds collected into 64 parts. And then you can loop at certain parts, so you have 64 different sounds playing. The Electron has not 128 bits, but 120 for some reason. So all those waveforms I put into 120 chains, I call them. There is a thing called Adventure Kit waveforms. It is a chain of sounds combined into one waveform, and the Adventure Kit made all these waveforms, I think over 4,000 waveforms. And then I picked the first folder of his free waveform collection. And then I put 120 of those sounds into one chain. So it was a very small file. And I can call it from the drive, which is in the Electron. And then this one single cycle waveform will loop from 0 to 1, from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3. And this is how I start building basically bass lines, or maybe a kick every once in a while, or mostly synthesizer sounds. And I make it with the Electron. So I'll give you a little example. If I turn everything off, I have here a track which is called SD. So normally that is the snare drum on the Electron, but I placed a WAV file in there, and that WAV file I can call it up here at the sample, and then with the start and end point I can say, okay, you need to loop there, and that makes the sound. So if it's basically just some rumble right now, but if I add a little kick to it, you know, there's all these little strange fluctuations already going, some crackling and stuff. So I could just also change the waveform into another sound by just moving from 7 to 8. But now the filter is really low, so you don't really hear it, but I'll keep it this way so you know what I'm doing. Yeah, so this is running. So this is basically what I started yesterday. There's a few things that I like to use a lot. So the Waldorf Blofeld, for some reason, is a very funny machine, digital thing, but it connects with USB to my computer. And I have a plugin which is called Monstrumfeld. And when I open it up here, you can see that it's basically a VST plugin running the Blofeld. So the sound is coming through the outputs into my mixer here, and the wave of that sound is coming, into an audio track here in Bitwig. So I just jam around a little bit and then I record it. This is the Maschine. What I did with Maschine, if I open the mixer here, you can see that now I'm using group 1 or group A in this matter, and then I just use the whole group to come into output number 1 from the machine. But these are basically 16 outputs which you can use. So I could choose to use one sound per group, or I can set up one group of sounds like a drum kit basically, and then I can play it here. And then obviously there is the modular running. So yeah, the modular, I don't know. I really use a lot of those random things which Bitwig has to offer right now to make melodies. So as you can see here, I'm running a 16-step sequencer. You can make it 64, you can make it 1, it doesn't matter. If you press this button, it just rolls the dice. So basically it just drops different values here. And these values you could send to anything modular. So it could be to a filter, to a melody, to a CV voltage thing, whatever you want. This time I chose to send it to rings, and then it's making this melody. So this was basically the basis of how I started the track. So now I'm going to get a little bit deeper into things. So how this starts. First, of course, there's the kick. So in Bitwig I start with the drum machine, and then I place an instrument layer here, so you can actually add several layers of sounds into one drum pad. And for a kick that's quite handy, because sometimes you need a low end and you need a little bit extra on top, or just a high end, and you filter out just the low end in a break or something like this. Now there's only one layer, so there is a really nice thing about this new Bitwig system that, if I double click it, there is the kick here. I can let it run, and then I can actually change the sound of the bass drum on the fly. So if I scroll through these sounds, as you can see, it will change the bass drum. See? So while you're in the process of doing stuff, you can change the sound together with the bass on the fly. So this is also quite a nice bass drum. It doesn't really matter, it's just an example of how to work. So, and then when you say, okay, it's gonna stay there, so that's quite nice. Then, like I said, there is this random notes things. So what I did, I just dropped the dice here, and then this melody came out. Because you can pretend to play, but you can also just play some notes. But then basically when you play notes, you will always be, between the E and the F, there is nothing left. So if you play E or F or some chord, it will always be those notes. But if you use this kind of randomization process, there will be notes in between the E and the F as well, and tones. And this is what I like about techno, that it can be a sculpture, it can be just abstract sounds all coming together, and people will remember those tracks. And this is really what I like about this style of music. It's obviously a dance music. You need to be hypnotized on the dance floor, so it's mainly drums. But all these abstract sounds coming together without being constricted to a certain pattern of chords or music theory. This is what excites me always. So this is how I like to work. So I just randomize a certain bass line, and then from this you start tweaking the knobs, and then you hopefully have a chord which actually fits those kind of loops you make on the modular or wherever you want to make them. And this is what happened yesterday as well. So I'm just going to turn off several things. So I'll turn the Blofeld off, and I'll show you what happens with the machine and how I like to work with this as well on the fly. And then there is the modular here. So all right, so for some reason it sounds like a chord all of a sudden. So these are the notes coming out of the modular by randomization. It sounds like a melody to me. And then I can change obviously the sound a little bit. But I kind of like it how it's bassy right now, and it might become into a bass line if I filter this up. Very low, very deep. Very nice. But I don't know if I'm going to use it, but now it's the basis for the track. So with the new Bitwig 2, there is here is the channel for the modular. I have this MIDI device from Vermona hanging in here. It's sending out gate and 1 volt per octave CV. And you have 2 CV voltage controls coming out to anywhere. I can change like the parameter of which it will receive through MIDI. So I can say, okay, I want it to be CC control. So control number 1, which is usually the mod wheel, or aftertouch, or velocity, corresponding with the CC number in the computer. And I've set it to probably mod wheel or aftertouch. We have to find out actually what I did. And I found out that in the new Bitwig, you can put MIDI CC control into the chain of the hardware instrument. So basically, this is a hardware instrument. What it does is you can say, okay, which MIDI port am I going to send MIDI to, which is to this one, channel 1, 2, 3, and 4. Here is the channel, so I'm sending through channel 1, which is this row. Then I'm sending a MIDI clock, so I know that there is a 1/4, 1/8, 1/16, or a 1/8 triplet coming out here, and a reset. Those I can also use to trigger certain voltages into envelopes or filters or delays, whatever is in there. And then this says which output, or actually which input from the mixer is used to get the audio back in. Then what I did is I made an audio channel below this, so I can record everything I do on the modular. So this is standard audio channel. And then here is a new device in Bitwig which is called hardware CV out. And as you can see, there is a little LFO running. So if I open this up and open this up, you can see there is a beat LFO, which is running at a rate of -3, considering the tempo. And there is something going on here with the sine. So there's a sine LFO running with a beat of -3 compared to the tempo. And then here you can set a depth as well of how much it will go into this control. So what I did is I put this to the control of the CV, it goes in there, and then this LFO is slowly making, a little filter coming out of here. And there is one going in here. So there is, on the frequency of the filter, there is a little LFO flowing, so there is already some kind of human aspect to it, programmed by a computer. So this is mainly, what I'm doing, because if you're a drummer, you will always hit that snare drum on a different setting. So, a little bit to the side, a little bit to the left, etc., which makes that one drum loop so interesting. You can listen to it forever because it's the drummer playing it. But when you take a static drum loop, it's going to sound the same forever and ever. So what I want to do is use all these little tricks with LFOs and random step sequencers to make those drum loops go humanized again. And I will get to this later, but this is the basic working process of making a techno track for me. What I did here, as you can see, I just dropped some rhythmic notes. So it's basically just a C2 note being played, and then the sustain here will decide how long this note is held or how short. So it's basically a rhythm, and it is 16 steps, and it's over 16th notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So a whole bar is 4, and then, this is how it works. And then I said, okay, it will need to restart at every transport. So when I start play, it will always start from this one and then continue to play. So there is some organized chaos going on, basically. So I will open the filter so you can hear the sound. So what it does is it plays it now at a rate of 1 at 16th note. So if I change this rate, it will completely make the melody go different, because the tempo of how this plays is slowed down. And it will also go out of tempo because it will, loosen itself basically from the 128 BPM, from the time schedule. So this will always be a different melody now. I found out that they also have a diatonic transposer. So in general now it spits out notes which will fit into a major chord in the basic tone G. If I turn this off, you will hear all those notes. So this is how I started. But then I had the rhythm also running, and then I found out that certain notes don't fit into this, you feel that it doesn't fit right. So then I turned this one on and I said filter all the notes that don't belong to this major chord. 4 notes, filter them. And then, it only plays the notes that are within a major chord with a basic G, but then I shifted it also one step. This is how you can bring all those weird things together. So this is basically what happens. And now it's back to this, but I can also roll the dice and have a completely different melody again, but then it won't fit this chord that I already produced anymore on the rhythm. Well, as you can see, when I play with the modular, obviously, the first rule of modular is that everything you do, you should basically record. I just started yesterday with this setup. What I would normally do, I would make a few edits. I would play record here. And then as you can see, the sound is coming in here, quite a low volume. But then, you know, I make some edits like this. And then, yeah, for what it's worth, I could also play that step and then record that. I don't know where it's gone right now, but right here. And then the LFO a little bit, which is not really working at the moment because it's very smooth, but you can hear that the LFO is much faster. So, and then you recorded this, and now it will be a static. So the moment I start playing, you don't hear the original anymore. Now you hear the recorded version. And then you can choose if you want to have it on a stretch or repitched or raw. Usually I put it to repitch because then the sound quality is, you know, closer to the original. And I stay in this tempo anyway. So, so yeah, all these, you know, nifty little things you can use to send signals to the modular system, and you can keep it a little bit under control. But once I start recording, obviously I do everything as much as possible here because you want to have that live feeling. Well, you know, the basic thing is that you also need some rhythm, of course. So with the native instruments Jam, you know, you have all these rows of buttons, and it's like 64 of them. What I usually do is to speed up the process, I just, you know, press browse, I go to a group, certain group, and then I choose a drum kit set basically, which is a little bit mixed. It has some verbs, it has everything in it. So it's basically a sample which you could take from a sample CD, but then you will have control over every sound and every pad. You know, you can change the snare drum for a snare drum of your own. You can change the hi-hat of a hi-hat of your own. You can even, you know, load in a VST plugin here and make it play that. So you can change everything around, but you have something really quick to work with. And the cool thing is that you can go back to the song mode, and then you can quickly change around the patterns that you play. So as you can hear, there's nothing here yet, but and then, you know, I set it like it changes on the fly. So the moment I press it, it starts playing. Like this. And then I can build up, you know, the track, putting the filter on, putting this, and then I basically jam around a little bit, and this is really what it's made for. So the jam is basically playing from here. And this is just the Maschine VST plugin. So, you know, this is already part 4 of the C and Mac demonstration that I started yesterday. So there is some automation in there. As you can see here, I did the performance frequency, which I recorded because it just sounds a little bit better. I can show you. So if I turn it off, this is what it sounds like. I'll just let you listen to the machine. And then engage. See, it is just a little bit more dynamic. So what I did yesterday is, I'll show you right now. I'll just copy this one. I duplicate to here. So this is the new clip, basically. It's the duplicate of this one. So now I can fool around a little bit in this one. And then if I'll just delete all the information about the automation. So it's very easy. You just press auto, and then there is this performance effects which come with the Maschine Jam, I think. So if I press Shift Perform, you can see certain effects, and then you can change it around with this one. So I can do burst echo, flanger, filter, whatever. I set it to resonating echo, so you can hear it really well. So the moment I touch the strip, it will engage. This is this button, engage. And then when I press auto, it will record what I'm doing. And then I turn this engage off, so it will always be on. So I can listen to the original clip or the one with the effect. This is handy for, you know, if I want to bring all this, what I'm jamming back into Bitwig, I just hold this one and then I drag that clip into here. And then you will hear it with that performance effect. And then when I turn it off, you will hear it without the performance effect. So you have a dry and a wet option for this clip. This is basically why it's handy. So, you know, you fool around a little bit with this, and then you drag the clip here, and then you basically save some CPU space as well, or some CPU power if you would need it. You just, you know, turn this off and then it won't play. So how this works is, you know, if you look at the mixer, you see that all those tracks from Maschine are coming here inside Bitwig. And what I usually do is I make an audio track for every single output of the machine. So it's 16 stereo outputs coming in here, as you can see. And then I made the first audio track red because the group is also red. If I would make a new audio track, you just press here, add audio track. And then I can name it, oh, accidentally touched it, Command R, and then I say group B, for example, because I don't know what it is yet. And then I make this yellow, so it's corresponding with the color of the group here. So I remember where the sounds are coming from. So let's go to group B. I press browse, and then there is a 808 kit, for example, and then the sequence is running, and the MIDI and everything is running through the VST plugin of Maschine. So I'm just running an instance of the VST plugin. But because you have this machine, you can quickly jam some notes. I can play. This is just the machine you hear, and then I can choose a sound. And then so you have a rhythm going. With this, you can set the velocity. Yeah. So yeah, I put the velocity of this note corresponds with this one, and if I set it to this and I play a new one, it will be this velocity. You can obviously use the studio as well and just, you know, play it in with velocity pressure sensitive, because these pads are not pressure sensitive. So, you know, here's a rhythm going, and then I can put some effects on it like I just did for example, a filter, and then this will correspond with the same group. So if I play it, I choose this one, I play it, and you can hear that low pass filter. I put a little bit more resonance. And then I record that. Again, I delete that engage. And then I'll take this little audio part and drag it to where I just created that new audio channel, and then it's here, that little 808. Yeah, I don't know, because my setting is set to more bars. It's taking this whole file as audio, but this is basically the file. Funny enough, it doesn't have the tempo right now. That's strange. So this should be it. More or less. So this is how it works. So yeah, you could take a sample from a sample CD, or you can just make your own little loop here quickly and drag it in. So it's a little bit more connected to the song that you are making. So this is how I use that jam, basically. And then we go back to the Blofeld, for example. So this is a VST plugin which is made by a third party, and this guy calls it the Monstrumveld, and it is basically all the MIDI control that you have inside this Blofeld machine in a VST plugin. So if I change the cutoff here, it will change the cutoff inside this machine. It's basically a librarian, as well as, you know, you can connect filters and everything to, you know, to MIDI control. So what I did yesterday, I just went through certain patches, and then I ended up with this one. But if I close this and stop playing, you should basically hear what is coming through here. Of course, yeah, it should be working. Like this? No. Ah, here, yeah. So this is now the sound coming straight from the Blofeld. So it's a little bit crackling. As you can hear, that is because I put a pitch shifter behind it. If I turn that off, this is the sound. Very sharp, very digital. I put this pitch shifter here so it combines a little bit better with what is coming from the Electron and from the modular, obviously. Yeah, so a pitch shifter, you can change the tuning of a certain sound, and you can use it on an audio channel. So the sound is coming live from the Waldorf into the mixer, and then it's coming into Bitwig. And here I can fool around with the tuning of the sound after it's processed through this COM filter. So the original sound sounds like this. Very static. Then I place the COM filter, which is standard in Bitwig. So it becomes a little bit more ringy. It's basically a resonator. Then I place this pitch shifter on top of it. And then again with that step LFO, I'm making the pitch shifter shift just slightly. I can set it to a bigger value, but I chose to set the depth to a little value. So if I put the depth a little bit more up, it will go all crazy again, see? But just to give it a little bit of clicks and a little bit of stuff going on, it makes your music come alive a little bit more, not so static. So yeah, as you can see, I'm using a lot of those kind of things to keep it alive. Then I made a recording of it, and then later I can just cut out the pieces that I really like, which combine very well with all the other parts in the track. And then, you know, from there I can build the song. So it's just jamming around, recording all those separate tracks as WAV files, and then you start arranging, you know, in a more in-the-box kind of way. So it's from outbox, you know, like out of the box into the box, and then, you know, if you treat all those machines as a sample, you, I don't know, you start to also let go of, I can change, you know, the knob at every moment in time. I can, you know, do this, and then you will clutter your mind with all the possibilities, and then you might end up staying in that endless loop. And if you make, you know, like a static audio track out of it, you say, okay, now I cannot do anything anymore about it. I can just filter it, or volume-wise, you know, make the arrangement, and then for some reason it's easier to make that arrangement and easier to finish your track as well. So yeah, I could, you know, start and jam the whole thing together and make a track, which sometimes I do as well. Just record everything and then start cutting and you know, make it more into a logical progression. So yeah, with all that, all those technologies, you know, someone made this, and then obviously there is also a random button, which I like again, and then, you know, there is some sounds all of a sudden coming out of there, which you would never make by yourself, you know, because it uses all those MIDI drive, filters, echoes, whatever it is in this machine to create the sound. So that's that, and then there is the rhythm, which I really use a lot. I placed the rhythm, analog rhythm. So it's basically an analog machine with a digital kind of environment. So they made a VST plugin out of you know, your working environment for the Electron. So as you can see here, the tuning of this particular pad, the sweep time. So how you would create this analog sound, you can have it as a VST plugin here as well. And you can see that this is the waveform that I was talking about before. This is that chain. And this chain has 120 of those single cycle waveforms, of which I chose one, looping here. And this creates that bass line that I also showed you before. So when we go back to that, it's this kind of rumbling bass sound, but for techno it's really nice to have something rolling underneath. So, you know, because I always have in my mind that I have to play live as well at a certain point and be able to play these tracks live, I keep that in mind in the studio as well. So I keep things very simple. I use this Tractor F1. It only has 4 sliders and 4 rotaries, as you can see. Obviously it has a shift, so you would have 8 of these and 8 of the rotaries. But for now I just use these 4 to keep it really simple. Because there's several things that this analog rhythm is really cool at, and I'll show you that later, but let's show you first how this sounds like. So as you can see here, I use that single cycle waveform as a sample. So this machine is a synth, an analog drum machine, and next to it you can play a sample as well. And those samples that I use in this particular case are 120 of single cycle waveforms, which someone made either on a computer or took from an analog old synth. And he made one cycle of this sample. So it's just one bit basically of that sound. But because it's rendered in such a high kilohertz quality, it's you can pitch it 4 octaves up and 4 octaves down, and it would still run just as an analog synth would do. But because this machine has to deal with all those bits, it also makes it alive a little bit already, because it's just a very small loop. So I'll put the amplifier open. So as you can hear, it's looping now that little part in this big chain of single cycles. If I would change it around, I would go to sample, and then I would set the start and the end point one higher. So now the start and the end point is from 0 to 1. But now I go from 1 to 2. You can hear the timbre change, and then from 2 to 3 you can hear. There is also a bit rate, and you can hear that there is some different types of effects on it. These are the effects that are coming in here. As you can see, this is now the filter. And with this slider, I influence the sound from the machine, but not straight to the filter. I'm making use of the performance mode of the analog rhythm, and the performance mode is basically a pad. So I can choose in the performance mode which of the controls will be influenced by me touching this pad. So the more strong I touch it, the more volume, or the more you go to 128 basically, but because this is MIDI. So it has a velocity pressure from 0 to 127, and I can decide which parameter from this machine will be influenced by me touching it. So while the filter goes up, I can also put the resonance a little bit down or up, or an effect going up, or a volume going down. All this by just touching one pad. So I chose, okay, this is pad number 1, this is pad number 2, and this is 3, and this is 4. So in a live situation, I can have this control this, but it's going through a computer. So my ideal situation would be a little tablet with Windows on it, or ideal would be OS X on a tablet. Please, bring this on. But for now, I'm using the Samsung tablets because it has Windows 10, and then I can also use it as a touch screen, so I can touch this and start clips and all that. And then basically I'm using this USB controller to send MIDI through the VST plugin into the Electron. If this would fail, I could still use those pads to play in a live situation. So playing live is basically being able to play live if stuff doesn't work. So this is why I'm using this setup, and also you can control the sound, how you want it by just using this one slider and using filter, volume, resonance, etc. in one go. As you can see, when I touch this, you can see that the LED is going brighter. So this is the one that I'm now influencing with this slider. So I hold performance, and then I go into performance mode. Then I touch this pad. So basically, I will play. this one. So now, oh, what did I do? It should be this one. Yeah. I don't know why I'm hearing it right now. It's something with solo. 1 second. Ah, this is the one. Okay. So what happens? I go into performance mode, and then me pressing this makes that filter. So as you can see, there is a lot of resonance here. So I just go to the filter on this electron, and then I can decide, okay, when I have this on maximum pressure, I want the resonance to be really high. And I can say, you know, the maximum limit of the frequency of the filter is at a certain setting. So you can hear that it's now really bright, but I can also set it that this is my maximum. So I cannot go higher than this. And then this is the same. See? So if I put it to the highest maximum, the highest value that I want it to be, a little bit less resonance, then now it's this. So this is handy to know what you're doing, because, you know, whichever button I touch, whichever knob I touch, it will come to the top of the chain of MIDI parameters here in Bitwig. So now I want this controller to control this pad. I just touch the pad, then I say, you know, right mouse button, map to controller or key, and then I touch this, and then it will control. What I did here is just to have an overview. In Bitwig you can make macros. So you have 8 macros already here in the first page. You can make even more pages with macros, you know, to connect other controllers or LFOs or whatever. So you keep a little bit of an overview of what you're doing. So what I did here, I made a knob for performance number 2, and then this will do the same as me touching this. So I know, you know, what I'm doing. So I, you know, touched the performance, and then I said, okay, this controlled to the key, and then I touch this one, and then it will be connected. And then I said, map to controller or key, and then it will start green, and then you can see that this one is controlling the one in Bitwig, and that this one will be controlling this one. It's all software, so there's no latency, whatever. So this can, you know, this gives you a lot of control over a certain sound, or actually a whole bunch of parameters, and this is very handy in a live situation. So you can level things out, and that you will never go beyond that, you know, sharp point or whatever of sound. You know, when it's this resonance is squeaking over the speakers, you don't want people to become, you know, deaf. So, you know, all those sounds come together in this particular way. So, okay, I was coming back here. So this is that sound. Another thing which is really nice about the rhythm is that you have trigger control. So you have parameter locks for every trigger of the sequence. So the sequencer has 64 steps. You can change the amount of steps that you like it to play by pressing this, and then you can say, okay, 32 steps means it's basically 2 bars, 2 times 16 steps. And then the nice thing about the machine, by this electron, is that you can press a certain step where a note is. And then you can say, okay, I want on this particular step the filter to be always below a certain frequency. So as you can hear now, it will do this. I leave it open. And let's see if this is working. So this note will always trigger the filter at a lower frequency than this will be. So, you know, also when I would be performing, it's nice to have the sequence here because hardware always runs maybe better than a computer situation, you know? So I could still use this even though my computer is not functioning. That, you know, you always have to keep that in mind. So what happens here is it plays this sequence. I will make it a little bit shorter. So now it makes a loop at 9 steps, so it will be off beat, but it's very techno, of course, to do stuff like that. Like the old 303 machines, you know, they had this little sequencer, and so this is why. So it's independently running from the sequence in the VST, and that makes it very comfortable to fool around and to make it very interesting also as a progression into the song. So it has this trigger functionalities. So what I just did, I placed that filter here, and then this particular trigger in the sequence of the electron will always play this frequency of the filter. But I can also say I only want this triggered every 4th of the cycle of the sequence. So I hold it down, I go to trigger options, and then I say, okay, every first of a loop of 3, it will play this note, as you can hear. Not there, and there it is. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and there it is. So you can make really interesting sequences which are not so easy to make in like a DAW environment. And then when you combine all this, you know, you have something running, and then you filter it up, you filter it down, and this is how you create the whole song. So it's, again, a whole jam. And then now this plays better, I don't know. I changed it around a little bit, obviously. So I don't know if it still makes sense at this moment in time. So yeah, this is my standard procedure for creating a track, and then I would record all these little parts into an audio track. So what I did here is that rhythm overbridge is the main you know, VST, the main machine, and then I made a group, and this group consists of the separate tracks coming out of the analog rhythm. So the bass drum, the snare drum, etc. And they also have, so these are basically audio tracks, but on the audio track I put an audio receiver. And this is native also to Bitwig, so you can say which audio needs to come in, which would be the source for the audio to record. So I placed an audio track, the source is coming from this, you know, VST plugin. So it has all those separate outputs, just like the Maschine had. And then I chose the source here, the rhythm overbridge. It's inside LFO. So here are all the device chains. And then I choose the pre-fader sound of the electron rhythm coming to this channel. So once I will set this to record, it will record. Oh yeah, I also put this on the the same input, so I choose the same bass drum output from the Electron, and then it has the input also on the audio channel. I do this so I can hear it and also can swap between what I just recorded, and if I want to redo something, I just quickly turn this one on, and then I hear again the original sound coming from the Electron machine. So now if I would arm it, this one, you would have that rolling bass running here. I can also record the kick. And now if I turn this off, I can hear what is coming and what I just recorded. So this is the audio file of what is coming from the Electron. So, the main arrangement starts as a big jam, and then it will all come together as all these separate WAV files, and then I will start, placing those WAV files in the arrangement view here, and build the track, mix it down, put some effects, some reverb, and all this kind of stuff. So this is how I like to make music, and this is basically how all my tracks, came to life. So I'll put this aside a little bit. So what I just did, I loaded a project, and I've called it X Drummer, and I named it after a movie from Belgium that I saw at a film festival in Rotterdam years ago. My name is Secret Cinema. And I'm also a big cinema lover, obviously, but the name is more or less because you see images in your mind when music speaks to your imagination. So, when you hear good music, you feel emotions, and you see images when you close your eyes, and this, little theater in your head is basically your secret cinema. So, and the funny thing is that this song, last night when I was thinking about today, what am I going to do, what am I going to show, I thought of this track, which is called X Drummer, and I only named it X Drummer afterwards because it sounded like, this loop, for some reason it's drumming to me, it sounds like there is really someone placing those drums and making it sound like there is someone touching the snare drum, etc. So it's alive. But it's difficult for other people to hear what I am thinking, in my secret cinema. So I always wonder if, what I'm thinking of, my fantasy, is that really real? So basically I built up this track like I just showed you. I started with a, little modeler, and I started with a little thing on the machine, on the Electron, and then the machine came with some rhythms, and then I thought, no, maybe I can still put a little bit of a loop in there from a sample CD, and let's see what I can do with all those LFOs to make it come to life. So here is that big arrangement coming together from all those little parts that I recorded over here. So yeah, I actually, because there was this Korg FM coming in the stores, I saw that also people were searching all of a sudden for this thing again. And then, I was like, oh yeah, I actually have this machine, so maybe I should plug it in. And then, it has these really cool things of you can change the scene, so you can morph from one scene to scene 2. And this morphing procedure makes it that, every little step here makes a really weird sound. So the song here is still called U.008. Well, you can see why it's called. It's user saved location 008. So that is this sound that I used for this track, which is the main bass line. So what I did, I just started recording. I played with the scene. I, did some filtering and everything, and then I had really the basis for the song there, and then I cut everything into pieces and placed it into the arrangement, as you can see here. So let's have a listen to. This is the cool thing about Bitwig. You can just load in several tracks, and then the one you want to hear, you just say activate audio engine. And if you like a certain group or a certain kick or preset or synthesizer, whatever you made, you can just drag it into the other song. So there is 2 songs open now, the one that I showed you and this one. And then I say, okay, activate audio engine. So yeah, it's loading now. So all the plugins and everything. So I soloed that recording of this DX sound, and then so this is that FM bass. So I just pressed record, and then I build up the sound like I would build up in my mind already the whole song. So you filter it a little bit. As you can hear, it becomes louder, more presence. For the source sound, I just used, I think it's called Tronic Bass or something preset, which is inside this machine. And what they did, they basically put a DX7 inside a groove box. So there is a chip inside this machine, and this chip is a whole, DX7 synthesizer, but then with knobs. So I used the VCF control, and what I did is I changed some distortion settings as well, some phaser settings, and any harmonic and FM depth that was within the balance, I saved to scene 2, and then the original sound was scene 1, the original how I kind of programmed it. As you can see, it's making those little fluctuations right now. I'm still building up. And then it was, playing the MIDI file, basically the MIDI from the DAW into this. And then it changes also the pattern. And this is when I'm starting to evolve into this sound, very, harmonic, very, see? I just had a kick running and maybe a little bass line and a jam on the machine. And I thought, okay, maybe I should start recording this first, because I don't know, I couldn't really remember how I would save it, or maybe this, it's so old, this machine will fail. It's better that I quickly record it, so I have this cool session. And in the end, I was able to store everything, so it was all fine. But it also made me into thinking of the arrangements immediately, instead of just staying in that endless loop, which happens a lot when you're producing inside the box. So I recorded this just with a basic, ride, turning on the ride off and on, and having the bass drum off and on, just to create a little bit of a song structure. And so that was basically a whole file like this. And then I recorded several. As you can see, this is longer part. And then I created the sequence by cutting them a little bit into, some funny breaks and stuff like this. So. That's not really correct, but it's probably because I touched the Allen and Heath. I can use it as a MIDI controller as well. So on the kick I use that comp filter again that I showed you before, which is off now. So what's happening with the song, I placed a comb filter on the kick, and this is that comb filter. It's that native 2-bit wig comb filter. So, you know, it's easy to start with just the bass drum, and yeah, normally that's very boring, and I also needed something to give me the tone in which the song is going to be, so you can hear from the start, okay, this song is going to be perfect when I mix it, you know, with the next song or something. So I thought, let's resonate at a certain frequency, and this is the beginning of the track, and then when I turn it off, it becomes the real kick comes. And this also, you know, to actually melt the kick and the FM sound a little bit together. And then, you know, I just did a shaker. This was basically a loop which I changed around a little bit. Yeah, well, in this case, I just took a loop from a sample CD that I bought, and then I used the step modulator. So what I use a lot is the transients shapers. So there's a transient shaper in Bitwig as well, and with a transient shaper you can, you know, all the transients of a drum, the attack and the decay, they have a certain time. If you turn the transient of the attack up, it's gonna be more sound, and if you turn it down, it's gonna be more. You shape it off, and you can do the same thing with the length of a loop. So I'll show you just the shaker, and then obviously I can also just play this one. So what I did is, as you can see here, this is the transient shaper, and you can see that the sustain of the transients is moving. And I changed the loop around by placing a step modulator in front of this, and then put the whole chain of this effect into the step modulator, and then it will modulate the sustain level of the shaker. So if I turn the transient off, it's a very static loop. But now that whole loop is completely different just by changing the sustain. So I created my own little chaos, and I can say it needs to do this over 16 or over 3 or over 5. It doesn't really matter how many steps. So I could also do it very random. So every 9th, there's now. So any effect basically you can use. And this is what I tried to explain before also, like a very static loop, you can make it come alive just by adding a little bit of your own, and just in this case, you know, changing the attack, because this is what basically would happen with a real drummer as well. If you would hit the snare, you can hit it that you know, leave the snare drum so you have more decay, or you left the stick on the drum and have no decay. So, you know, this is what happens when a drummer plays. This makes the groove. So, you know, for me, I mean, this song, how it is very different from every techno that I'm hearing now at the moment. And I'm always searching for something that is a little bit different to what is happening at this moment. So everybody's trying to copy the Drumcode sound, or there's a lot of people doing some trance influences at the moment. So I'm like, no, I don't want to go there. I have to go the other side. So I try to make everything as organic as possible within, you know, in between what is what people like. So people like the sound of Ben Clock as well, like very credible Ben Clock, or, you know, very underground, but more upper ground, so to speak, more commercial. Maybe, you know, drum code, but I like both those worlds. I mean, it's all techno, so I try to combine all that to create something new. So, you know, only when you create this chaos, you can bump into something like, hey, this is interesting. I've never heard something like this before. If I can arrange it and show people how I hear it in my head, it would be awesome. And with this track, so it was basically this machine that started it all. But then in the end, I had a drum loop. So I created the breaks and everything. So there's, you know, a lot of elements going on. Some effects, a little bit also offbeat, not so tight, like the old dub guys would do, you know, with a space echo, and then, oh, it's not in rhythm, but it's okay, you know. So it's a ride and a snare. Then this. So you can hear that the drums are, it is like the drums are playing together with this machine. And now it's a bit more dry. Something like this. Of course, for a real drummer, it would be like, yeah, that's not a drummer, but there is a funny story to this. So the original loop is here. I didn't even place it in the... you know, in the scene part, I placed it directly into the arrangement. So as you can see, there is a lot going on this channel. Again, I placed the step modulator here. Again, this step modulator. The step modulator is doing a little bit of the mix of a comb filter. Then there is a step modulator here. You can hear that it's now hanging at some kind of feedback frequency. This is also one of my favorite plugins, the Sound Toys. So what I did is I placed the Echo Boy here, and then this step modulator is turning up the mix, as you can see. So when this one goes up, you can see that this knob is also going up. And this is what is making that sound. Then there is a really cool plugin in Bitwig as well, which is called Multi-Band FX. So you have a low, mid, high frequency. You can set which would be the limit for the low frequency, what is the limit of the mid frequency, and what is the limit of the high frequency. And then in the high frequency, you can place different effects again. So only on the high frequency you will hear panning or reverb, and anything below that frequency would not have that effect, which is really nice if you have this whole static loop going on. So if I would turn all of this off, this is basically the drum. I cut it up a little bit as well. If we turn everything back on again, it really starts to come alive. Yeah, so in this particular case, I kept the multi-band plugin really simple, but I heard that there was room on the left side for some mid frequencies, and there was room on the right side in my whole mix for some high frequencies. So what I did is I placed a tool which is a panner, an amplitude, and a width, so you can make the spectrum of the panning, the spectrum of the stereo image a bit wider or smaller. So if you put it to 0, it will be mono. So in this case, I just panned the mid frequencies to the left and the higher frequencies to the right. So I would have more room to have this whole loop in it, because it has snare drums, it has rides. You need to create a little bit of balance inside this mix. So this is what I used it for this time. Then I placed a volume shaper. And also one of my favorites. And funny enough, it has the colors of Bitwig, so it could be native. But the fine thing here is, again, that it also has a multi-band. So I can say, okay, I just want, you know, the dip of the sidechain. So basically it's an LFO sidechaining tool. I just want the mid frequency to be sidechained and the high frequency to be out there. So I had the crispiness of that high frequencies drifting as a kind of reverb all over the mix. So here, you know, I could balance all those things out. And now, you know, when that whole track comes together, then like this. And then the funny thing is that I had to play in Miami recently. So let's turn that feedback off. And I stayed with some family of a friend, and you know, they're a bit older, they don't go out anymore. This guy's an eye surgeon or something. And he, you know, they couldn't be as far away from electronic music as you imaginable, you know, it couldn't be more further away. So because we stayed at their house a little bit, we asked them also to join us, of course. And all, you know, super excited, but don't know where they were going to. It's really a club setting, dark club, loud sound. So I was kind of worried if they would, you know, if they would like it. But Scott, he is a drummer, so he drums, you know, in his private environment in the barn, you know, he has a barn drum thing going on. And then I tried drumming a little bit as well, and it's really nice. It's very difficult to keep the rhythm, obviously. But I said, yeah, maybe you can drum a little bit, and then I can sample it. So we were discussing, you know, if it's fun to do this, but we never did. We just went to the beach. And you know, and then they were in the club, and then I thought, yeah, I have to play this track, you know, because I want to know what it sounds like. It's the mastered version. And then Scott came in front of the DJ booth, and he was like, wow, and he was doing drum moves and all this, you know. And I called this track U.008. It's still called this way. I only called it X-Drummer after I thought, hey, this sounds like there is drums going on. And then this drummer, who couldn't be more far away from, you know, being into electronic music, he made the statement of, hey, did you sample my beats? Did you make a track with that? You know, he could not comprehend what was going on. And this was, for me, the proof that, you know, what I had in my mind, that it actually worked. And that, you know, of putting all those little elements of randomization together, making a track which has this feel of there is a drummer drumming, etc., etc. And I fooled basically a real drummer into thinking that I sampled him in this track, and it blew him away. So for me, this was, you know, I had to show this track because, you know, it proves that making music like this is making music, and it's just not just hiding that you can't play. It's knowing what you hear and making all those elements come together into a nice story. And yeah, this is of course a very funny story, but to me also a very beautiful one, because yeah, I was a musician at this little moment in time. So there you have it, my ex-drummer story. So as you can hear, this is the part with the rides. The ride is really high at the moment, and there's also some hissing sound. This is just a straight hi-hat, as you can hear. Here is that little bleep loop that just keeps on going. It makes the whole, like the whole environment of all sounds melt together in kind of, you know, like really hypnotizing way. So all those little elements came together later to fill all this up and to make it into interesting progression. So obviously the ride is very important in a techno track, and it would be very easy for me to already place that ride here, but I always try to wait as long as possible, and it comes after a little build up. For some reason I was hearing it already. Then you hear that kind of noisy sound. That noisy sound I made with the Blofeld as well. You know, in the same way I used this Control F1 to control the decay and the filter of that kind of a helicopter sound. So you could hear, I recorded everything, and then you can reverse certain things, of course, right before you go into the break. And then that ride step comes in. So what I did is, because, you know, again, when you just take a loop, in this particular case, I just took a loop from somewhere, maybe a ride that I once used in a track, and then I recorded the separate tracks, and I just took that ride because I thought, oh yeah, this ride is working, so let's put it in there again. So it's basically a little loop from a ride, and then of course I put the volume shaper there again, and then the mid part of the ride I duck, and the high part of the ride I keep alive because it's nice and crispy, melting all those high tones together. As you can see here in the Pro Q2, I cut below 244 Hertz because you don't really need it. It will clutter only inside the mix. And what I did with the ride, I put a little chorus on it. So the mix is off. So every once in a while I mix that chorus in, and then it will shift also a little bit of the like the frequencies to the left and the right. So again, it becomes more alive. So yeah, again, I used the chorus on the ride to make the ride become more alive, because I just took a static 1, 2, 3, 4 from another track that I once made. So there's all these little elements inside which make it that you can listen to this track till the end, because otherwise it would just be one static loop basically. So what I did here is, this is, let's see, because I think I made several sounds, but what is going on? It filters. And then, as you can see here, I just programmed the automation of the filter of this Blofeld, but I can't. Oh yeah, here. So I just placed a filter which is native to Bitwig, and then I can filter this up or down. But I mapped a controller to it, so it's probably this one or this one. I can't find it right now, but the thing is, because I just set up the studio, and some settings are not the same as I had it in my bedroom, because I also started with a new computer, so I had to reinstall everything. So I'm also still searching for where everything is. And a friend of mine did that, the studio wood. So actually, for the first time in my life, I have a professional studio. This is the first time that I had it treated against delay and echo and all this stuff. So yeah, for the first time in my life, I have a pro studio after 25 years. So welcome to this studio. And funny, and a friend of mine was making all these wood structures and building the studio, so that it all came together. And he helped me out a lot with this studio wood project. So, but back to this. So what I did is just a basic, like a frequency with a little bit of sine wave and a noise. And let's see if I can still show it here. So this noise level, and also probably the color of the noise, I was controlling with a MIDI controller, and this all came together in this macro. And then, as you can see here, the frequency knob is going to a ladder filter, and is going to another filter after that, because I had to balance things out in the mix. So otherwise it would be either too high or dive too low, or in this particular case I wanted it to dive but still be audible in the whole mix, in the whole spectrum of the frequency. And this is how I control all that. So as you can see, when I move this one knob, you can see that the frequency of the ladder filter is going up, and also the frequency of the low pass filter is going up. And then I can also decide for it, for the amplitude to go down. So it's basically the same as what the performance mode does for this Electron machine. You can attach several parameters from a certain sound to just one patch, and this is what a macro does. And there is a little LFO going on, and this LFO is running over the pan, as you can see. So the panning is just going from left to right, and the computer decides. So again, some programmed chaos to make a little bit more room into the mix, and also to let the track come to life, basically. This is the pre-master of the project, so I could show you, in comparison to what I showed you before, the computer music demonstration, and then this is an example of how a track actually came together, and how everything works out. So yeah, I just sampled a little bit of that noise, and then the filters and everything come later. So I record the original track without any effects, unless it's coming from the synthesizer itself. So you will still have control over the sound after you've recorded it. So I always try to record everything as dry as possible. And then over the audio channel, I put all the effects. So you can hear what it sounds like, but you still have the dry signal for people to remix it or any other purpose. You still are flexible when you start arranging the track. So yeah, and then on top of this little helicopter, I placed the ride, and then there was still room for that drum kind of effect, which, as you heard before, really worked out. The DX sound makes a little bit of this kind of African groove or something, and for some reason, every time I play this track, it's a lot of like African people, you know, or like girls, they start shaking their ass. So it's really nice to see that the most digital instrument in the world could create such a nice soul groove, you know, as far as you can call it soul, obviously, but within techno. And also I played in South America this track a few times, and this was the moment that the club exploded, you know. So I guess it has some kind of that really nice roll, really nice groove, really ass-shaking feel to it. And yeah, this is what I like a lot, those little, you know, tricks that makes it that, you know, digital sound becomes real groove sound. And yeah, this track says it all for me at this moment. You can also hear a very low end somewhere. So this is basically just a sub from a sample CD again, and then I used a ladder filter to to filter that whole thing out. So it could be, so this is the original loop. I would never use it like this. So this is making that, you know, low-end groove. So the recording of this machine makes the basis for this track, as you can hear. There is some echoing from the Echo Boy going on. So what is happening here, I placed on the mid-range several filters as well, some EQ. So I also rolled off the low frequency because otherwise it would interfere with that low end sub that I just showed you. And also it was a little bit too much in that mid-range. And obviously I'm using a filter as well because I need to let it come up and you know, make an arrangement into the whole track. And then I'm using from Sound Toys also this effect rack on top of it. So it has a primal tab, which is you know, like it looks like a little bit of an analog delay substitute, exactly as this one. I'm not really sure what this is based on. It just makes really short delays, and that is giving the groove basically. And it's only doing all this in the mid-range of this sound. Again, I was using that multi-band effect. It's one of my favorites. And then because the sound comes in, you know, not really panned like you want it to be, you can still use this multi-band effects to pan the high tones a little bit left or right, this in the middle, and then the low end I put on mono with the tool, because usually, you know, low end is, yeah, if you spread that in the mix in stereo, then yeah, you mud everything up. It gets muddy. So it's better to have the low end cut off to mono, and then in the club usually low end is mono anyway. Any subwoofer is mono. And then here I decided to have that below 77 hertz, which you don't really hear, but because I rolled it off, but there's still a little bit going on. And it's nice to have all those subs, all those subs combined into the kick, and that it still has enough room for each other to make that whole basic groove, actually. And I'm happy to hear that this groove really works in all the South American countries, you know what I mean? Well, in this case, on the master, I used the BX digital. Because I sent it to the guy that was mastering my track, and he said that it was a little bit subby in the low end. So I cut all that out below 41 hertz. I cut it all off, and I think in the highs a little bit. So I kept as much room as possible for him to master the track. And I had the feeling this was also going to vinyl, so it was better to already pre-cut a little bit more of the low end as well. And then I use a tool on the main mix as an effect as well. So when there is a little break, let's see if I can show this. Sometimes, not in this track, but sometimes in the break I let certain sounds rise in volume, but then I will lower the master volume in the final render. So all the other sounds will go down in volume, except that one sound that I let come to the front. And then when everything hits back, there is more power in the drop basically. So I use just a little amplitude plugin to lower the volume of the whole track in the break. And in this particular case, I used it for the feedback of the track. So it was feedbacking at the end, and then I just used it as a fade out basically for the track. And then for the rest I'm not using that much because just to play around with, I use that Maximus, which is a Fruity Loops thing, an FL Studio Imagine Line mastering, multiband mastering compressor, a maximizer actually. And then you can say, which frequency gets maximized and to which extent it's going to be in the EQ mix and etc. I use this when I used FL Studio a lot, so I still refer to it when I'm making the track, but obviously this is the pre-master, so I dropped all the maximizing plugins and let the mastering guy do all the work for this. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this studio session. I showed a little bit of what I do and how tracks come about. And you can always find me, of course, on Facebook. It's secretcinema.gem, because Gem Records is my label, so GEM. I'm a gem of a guy. And you can find me on SoundCloud, obviously, where I have radio shows posted, which I play every week on national radio. And I have some tracks coming. There was a very famous by now Drumcode release, which is called Maximal, and people are still playing it. It's already 4 years old, but it's still being played. And my next EP is going to be on my own label. It's called Seance EP. And the B-side of this EP I just showed you, which is called Ex-Drummer. And I hope you can listen to this track on vinyl, because we're going to print it on vinyl as well. And let me know what you think, and you can always hit me up if you feel like I have exactly what this guy wants. This is my style of techno, this is my kind of music. Send me demos. You can find me in secretcinema@gmail.com, or you can send it to info@gemrecords.nl. So please, you're welcome. Enjoy techno, enjoy life.